Hello, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Ross.
I'm Patrick.
And today we're joined by a man who's not only won many a Golden Demon or a Slayer Sword, he's actually won 2 Slayer Swords. The marvellous Neil Hollis.
Hello.
Yay!
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How was your mid-journey down here today?
Yeah, very good.
Good. Pleased to hear it.
What was the topic of this podcast?
We'll get to it, don't worry.
It's all definitely about painting.
Yes, yeah. So thank you very much for making the journey. It's really appreciated. We know it's a bit of a distance, but it's very good of you to come down and bring all of these marvellous miniatures, which will, I'm sure, get mentioned as we get going. So as always, the first big question we always ask, how did this all start, Neil?
Right, so being a schoolboy, and I think it was Space Crusade was my in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, lovely. Yeah, we got a copy, yeah.
And like a friend at school had Space Crusade, and I got Space Crusade, and then we played Space Crusade, and then there's the painted images on the side.
Yeah.
And then one day my mate went, guess what, you can paint these. And I went, and then later on I went, I found a shop where they sell these. And then, yeah, it started from there. Just started like getting into 40k, second edition, and just got heavily into the painting side of it. Played, but I just liked the painting more than the playing.
Yeah.
And that was my love, really. I got heavily into it.
From what point did you start to... did you paint initially? Were you a player? Did you have armies? Did you have...
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you could call it an army, because I think as a kid it was like I bought a dreadnought and I bought like a librarian, and there was never any troops.
Just buy all the ones.
I was exactly the same when I was younger. Yeah.
Army composition. What's that?
Yeah, exactly. I remember playing a game once, and someone I played with went, "You are meant to have like 25% troops," and I went, "Yeah,
don't worry about that."
So and
it's quite funny because now the 10th edition's finally caught up with your way of thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just play with what you like. So I did have armies, but I always enjoyed the painting side more than anything else. That was my love.
And before we got as far as competition painting, for want of a better term, was it just hobby of just enjoying painting for yourself, and then that's where it started to refine? Yeah.
So obviously, I just sort of I would spend hours and hours painting like a single character, and then I always used to like it because my friends would always like pick up and go, "Oh, that looks really good," and stuff. And then eventually I thought I wanted to get into the competition scene, or I wanted to try and win a Golden Demon, because that's what the competition scene was back then. And I just remember like trying to go to Youngbloods and trying to win. I never won a Youngbloods, but going there, I think when I was like 14 and 15, trying to win, and just got the bug for Golden Demon.
Well, what was your first exposure to Golden Demon?
It was always in the White Dwarfs. That was my main one, and I just remember there was always like really amazing paint jobs in there, and you could look year on year and see like really really cool things. Like you saw someone had painted one model one year, and then the following year they'd done like another conversion of the same chapter and stuff. And I remember going, "Oh, look, that person! Oh, they did last year," and like really loving the whole conversion and custom paint jobs things.
Who would you say? Right back at the beginnings of your interest in it, from the professional side within the company, who was your painter? Who was your man?
Well, Mike McVeigh was the man back then.
Yeah,
because I had the Mike McVeigh painting guide, and that was just that was the best thing in the world. And I just remember just studying that over and over and again, and I think it was a very well thumbed copy that I had by the end of it. And that was sort of the one I can remember, the one person I can remember from back in the day.
Well, he's come up quite a lot over the last few interviews we've had with painters. Is Mike always seems to get a mention. Tommy Sewell in our last interview was very keen on him, and I think James Tarrow mentioned Mike McVeigh as well. And it's nice that he's still about, and he writes so eloquently about painting as well. Even now, his Instagram's a real joy. So then, if you didn't go into Youngbloods, when did it all first start?
Well, I did enter Youngbloods.
Oh, you did? Sorry.
I did like twice into Youngbloods, but I didn't win anything. And
James Tarrow doesn't rub that in your face.
Oh, there you go. A lot of people I know in the scene always go, "Well, I won the Youngbloods back in 1998." I'm like, "Oh, good for you."
But then James was saying that people don't count his Youngbloods Golden Demon as winning like a proper Golden Demon.
Well, it's not a proper one, is it?
Yeah. I knew it was going to be controversial this show, but I didn't know it was going to start this early.
We've lost him.
Oh, right,
Sorry,
okay.
guys. Due to technical difficulties, we've lost Pat.
That's why I'm on
I just like
separate
already
camera.
the idea that James Tarrow is watching this at some point in the future, just shaking his fist.
Yeah. Never mind. That's it. That's why I brought it up. Thinking like, yeah, your mates, you'll get behind them, but okay, you're really good mates because you're like, yeah, it's not real.
You're thinking how James is going to react. I'm thinking how the Americans are going to react because I don't think that like really translates. Like why? Oh God, controversy! No, we're going to get to the controversy. That's here, but we'll slowly easing you in.
Yeah. We're applying the lube.
So
completely lost.
you went into Youngbloods, and that was where the bug started. And how many times have you entered before you had some level of success?
Way too many. I think I started entering around 95.
Right.
And I entered probably most years. I had a little break in the middle. So I've probably entered at a rough estimate, probably 10 or 15 Golden Demons.
All right.
And I didn't win until like 2008. So from like 95 to 2008 is a pretty big gap before I sort of actually had any success.
Do you, looking back on the entrances that you'd had that didn't pick up anything, do you look back on them and go, oh yeah, I could see where I wasn't getting it right, or or do you rightfully look back on them and go, I was robbed every single time?
Pretty much. There's a couple where I think I feel as I should have got a finalist pin or something like that, and I didn't. But on the whole, I can look back at all my stuff and go, oh, that's crap then. Oh, I was a bit better then. And you can see the progression through the years. And I think it takes a while before you work out the recipe of what makes a good entry.
Yeah.
Because it takes a while to learn, okay, the judges like this sort of style. They like this sort of look, and it's got to have this sort of story. And you sort of build all the blocks together, and then you find the winning formula.
Yeah.
And when you do, you can the success comes quite quickly after that.
It's quite interesting you say that, because I asked that as a question of James. I said, do you feel like there is within the Golden Demon there is a game, the understanding of And James said, yes, I think there is, but he said, I don't feel like I ever try to enter that. I always just paint for myself, and then
100% there is a formula.
Yeah.
And if you crack the formula, you will do well at Golden Demon. And the people that there are some painters that don't they just paint their own thing, do their own thing, mad styles, and they don't do very well.
Yeah,
but then if they're happy doing that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you want to win a Golden Demon, it's like, if you're gonna run the 100 meters, you want to start in this squatted position. You train the way to win. You don't go, I'll run backwards. That'll win me. That'll like my style.
Watch me go under these hurdles.
Yes. I know it's a long jump. If I walk around the side,
Drive through a broom handle instead of a javelin. Because we, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it wasn't a conversation we'd had, is that me and Ross were quite lucky enough to get actually hold of miniatures from the gentleman whose real name I don't know, but being Flame on Miniatures.
Yes, yeah.
And we've seen some beautiful, beautiful miniatures actually had them in our hands and looking at them, and stunning. And I remember saying to him, you didn't place. I was in there. I was in there for the awards. And he went, and then he just sort of flippantly, in a nice flippant way, went, oh, I never win, because they don't like my style. They don't like how I approach stuff. And
that is a thing. That is a thing. There are certain styles, and as a painting community, because I'm sort of, in there sort of with lots of people, we often comment and we go, oh, well, so-and-so won't place because of the style. Yeah. But then the general public goes, but they're brilliant. They should win a Golden Demon. And we all go, they're not going to win a Golden Demon.
Yeah.
But it's because we know the magic formula. We know the formula that's going to that the judges look for, and if you're not playing to those rules, it's an uphill struggle. So
It's slightly sad, isn't it?
it is in a way, but it's sort of Golden Demon is a very formulated competition. You know, they're doing a painting competition on their IP, on how they want to portray their miniatures, and if you're not really playing that game, they're not really going to want to, you know, publicize what you do. So it's a case of, you know, if you know the rules to play within, and you play within them, you'll do well. And if you're like a complete, you know, outlier, you're not going to do as well.
Is the magic formula something you'd be happy to talk about, or is it under lock and key? Is it like you and Richard Gray put the robes on and draw swords?
it is like the magic circle. I don't know if I'm
But I think, like, from the few demons I've been at, I think, like, when you attend them and you start to speak to people and they start to give you feedback, that a lot of that, if I'm right, does it come naturally through the feedback, kind of almost, you know, one of us, like indoctrinated into this is the approach. So it's slowly drip fed. Some people can look and see it. Others kind of, you know, you kind of have to attend and pay your dues and I
mean, there's elements of if you attend enough competitions, you will generally pick up the vibe of, and people will give you tips, and you'll talk to people and you'll learn, oh well, maybe I'll change this, maybe I'll do that, and you gradually build as a painter and you become successful. But then there are people that can just literally paint their first model, rock up to the competition and go, there you go, oh, I won, you know, and literally be that, you know, that talented lucky person, which we've discussed in the past, that you know, there's my model. Oh, fabulous. Gold. Thank you very much. You know, and so it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do this long trudge to try and to win. I mean, that feels like my journey has been, right? From like literally pounding away year after year to get to where I am. And that's what sometimes I think people don't see. They don't see that before my first demon, I lost probably 10, 15 demons in a row. And then once I won my first one, I think it was a gap until from 2008, I think it was like to 2015 was my next win. So you know, oh, I won a demon. Oh, brilliant! I'm now gonna be really good. I'm not. I'm gonna, you know, it's gonna take me another 7 years before I win another one. But I entered every year. And I and I kept trying to improve, and I got to, then I got to a patch where then I was winning every year, winning multiples every year, and I got to the sort of the heady heights of where I am now. But it's a case of, it's not like, oh, well, it's really easy, you know? Oh, you're just going to do this thing and you're going to win. You're going to have years of not winning.
So it's not like
ploughing away.
There's not like you got to 2008, oh, I know the magic formula now, I've cracked it. There's still beyond there.
I mean, the way it worked was, obviously that was the 2008-ish one that I did, and I thought, right, okay, Iron Hands. I'll do more Iron Hands, and what I'll do is I'll do them on an even bigger base this time, and I'll do 10 of them, and I'll put them in a drop pod, and it's going to look amazing. And it didn't place. So, and then I was like, it took me an entire year to make that, make that entry, and I remember going, oh, I didn't win. And, you know, there was all sorts of work went into that I felt was way above what I'd done. But I obviously wasn't ticking the right boxes. You know, I was, you know, and then it took a while before then I sort of won again. And then it feels as though I sort of learned each year. Every time, I always say, if you learn more from losing than you do from winning.
Okay.
You know, if you lose, you really look at your piece. You look at, well, maybe I could have done that better. Maybe I could have done. You get feedback. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And people are really sort of generous and saying, well, you could have done this. You could have done that. When you win, you go, thank you very much, and you walk off the stage, and you don't ever go, oh, what do you think I could have done better? Because you go, well, it won. So
I think it would look really like you were very, very thirsty for information if you went, I know I won gold, but what would can you give me feedback on why I didn't?
A funny story I've got as well, because one of my friends, Matt Kennedy, he was entering into one of the mini demons, and he was before the award ceremony, and he was saying to one of the judges, I'd really like some feedback on my piece, and he was going, and they said, oh yeah, they said we'll do it after the awards, and then he won the Slayer sword. And as the head, he went, here's your feedback.
Brilliant. Oh, absolutely brilliant.
See, they can have a laugh. So,
Yeah.
no, that's brilliant. Oh,
So
fantastic.
with those two Iron Hand pieces, is there anything like when you said obviously you weren't ticking some of the boxes? What do you think those may or may not have been?
The funny thing is, obviously, I re-entered that, and I think many years later, and it did place.
Oh, okay.
Because you know that's one of the great things you can do with obviously old entries is keep improving them and recycling them. I think that year it was so when I entered the first year, he always used to be squad is a fairly weak category. So if you were looking to try and win your first demon, you can aim for categories that are easier to win at to try and add chance. Whereas then the following year, it was, I think, a much more competitive year in squad. And the feedback I got from that was, you need to paint something other than Iron Hands. You've already done that. You need to do something else.
Oh, okay.
And that's the feedback I got was try something else, try something new. So, and then, of course, I did paint some more Iron Hands, but I painted lots of, you can probably tell that everything from there on has been quite different.
Yeah.
So, it's that thing of don't play safe. You've got to try and, do something different, try something new.
Okay.
How do you think the competition, like the people against you, how do you think the skills of your competition have grown in the last years? Like, has it got, would you say it's got a bit harder, significantly harder, massively harder?
I would say Golden Demon at its current form is it's the hardest it's ever been.
Yeah.
And it gets harder every year. And there's this constant up curve of how good everyone is. And it is scary how good then new people that come in are as well. Like, you see people that have come in, and I feel as though I'm like an old veteran now of Golden Demon, and even myself and Andy Wardle, we called all the young kids that came over to Adepticon with us as the younglings. Yeah. Because they were like literally coming in, they won a load of demons, and we're like, oh, the younglings did really well.
Time to get the lightsaber out.
And they are. I think new painters come in at a much higher level than we did because they've got so many resources online.
Yeah.
The equipment is so much better now. Paints are so much better than they were in the 90s, and brushes are better, and you can watch tutorials, and you can go to classes. And all I had was a magazine that I sat there and went, oh, how do I do that?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't look like that.
It's funny you say that because my mate made the joke a while ago. We were talking about Golden Demon. And he said, army level painters now would have been in with a shout.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s. And funnily enough, my mate has set up an eBay shop of getting rid of a lot of excess Games Workshop stuff that he's had for years. And the other day he went, have a look through that. How brilliant this is that they don't make them anymore. Was 2003's chapter approved. And it's got loads of rules for like Croup with wings and all different things, and it just brings a load of flavour to the game. And it had, and I remember seeing them in the flesh, a Space Wolf squad from 2002, maybe 2003, depends on when that book was produced. And it was a Space Wolf squad, and I remember them being on show in Games Workshop Liverpool. And the guy had used a lot of Corn Berserker bodies for the bullet belts and stuff, the old Corn Berserker plastics, and but he looked at me, they were dry brushed. And you think, look really good because had that scratchy sort of thing, but they were blatantly dry brushed, And you think, God, imagine now if you turned up with that squad and put that in, and you think, you realise that you're absolutely right, the equipment and the resources and just the improvement in basic skill now is so far and away what it was then,
you can improve quickly as well. Before, it used to be trial and error. That's how I learned to paint, was try this thing. I remember the model that I learned how I could transitional blend with, because I had a Katachan jungle fighter, and back in the 90s everything was bright colours, and I wanted his chainsaw to go from like red to yellow up that way, and I thought, well, I don't know how to blend. All I'm going to do, I'll just paint the stripes, and I'll do that one red, and I'll do that one a little bit of yellow at it, and I'll add it in slowly. And I did this and I went, that looks splendid. And I was like, ka-ching. And so you only learnt by trial and error, which meant that some things were so hard to learn.
And now
because,
hundreds
and
of
now
videos
you go,
on
how do I do that thing? And you Google it, and then you get a load of tutorials, and then you go on Instagram and you speak to a painter and say, can you tell me how you painted that thing? And they go, yeah, sure, I used these paints and I did this thing. And you go, oh, all right, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, you couldn't do that in the 90s.
No.
I think the best you had was, if I remember, back in the 90s, we could go into the store and say, hey, can you show me how to paint this? And I think the only technique they knew in the store was how to paint gems. That was it. It was like, put a dark colour underneath and a black bit at the top with a white dot in it, done. And that was the only thing I could paint back then, because it's all they knew how to teach.
I remember that when I first went into, I got any painting tutorials done in a Games Workshop store. Them staff members were like gods when it came to painting.
Yeah.
You know, I remember one of them went, doing faces, and it was like, yeah, he said, it's all right, do it with that, whatever the old version of Dwarf Flesh was, or what it was. And he was going, yeah, he says, this brown ink, thinned it down, put it over, you're like,
was that chestnut ink? That was talent in a bottle back then, wasn't it?
Yeah. I've still got a bottle of it.
I remember taking my models into the local GW and going, will you have a look at my model, please? As a young kid, and then going, oh yeah, you should do this and you should do this. And it was like, that was the way of getting feedback. Go into a store, ask a staff member, and they would give you some idea of what you should do. And that was, that's the only way of doing it.
And they were like, because you had access to nothing else other than them. They were like the gods of painting, because no one, your mum or dad weren't going to go, oh, well, if you'd done that blending a bit more this or that, you went in and seen these other adults. And even me, I was talking to them as an adult, because I didn't get into the hobby till I was about 28. But you still referred to what they knew more than, because there was no other way to find out.
You had to learn by that really slow method.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Saturday afternoon.
I actually remember going for he's not there anymore, but there used to be a very lusciously long-haired, bearded Spanish gentleman who worked for Heavy Metal, and he used to do painting lessons at Warhammer World. And I remember being like massively pleased, was because I'd done a Wolf Priest, and I'd managed to do instead of doing the old just highlights, I'd done a reflection going down the arm, and he went, oh, that's right, that's how light bends on a curve. And I remember being like massively impressed with myself, and you're thinking, oh, this god from upstairs. But yeah, it is a very, very different game now, though, isn't it?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So what? So obviously you've got 2008. So what is your Golden Demon winning journey? So we start there.
Yeah. So
each demon.
I've got a lot of demons that I don't own anymore. So my collection is fairly sparse.
And these are available soon on the webs now.
So obviously around 2008 was when I got back into serious competition painting. I think it was like 2006, and was having a go then. 2008 had some success. I think it was nothing then until 2015, which was like I painted a Ferris Manus, and I took that in and did quite well with that. And then the mini demons popped up, and that was just like, you could 3 demons a year, which meant there was a lot of opportunity to go to competitions. And then I won several Heresy Weekenders and the Space Marine Golden Demon. And so then I racked up quite a few. And then really, again, there was probably then a bit of a break. And then it was really then I started doing some other bits and pieces. I went to Crystal Brush over in the States. So before Golden Demon had gone back to Adepticon, I went to Crystal Brush. I'd done some like Iron Skulls and things like that. And then, of course, my real sort of notoriety was then really coming back to America for the Adepticon Gold Demon, which was not this year's one, last year's one.
Yeah.
So that was my main big one, was where I won my Slayer sword. And then, obviously, I've carried on since then with other more controversial pieces.
And we're coming to them. So
should we rip the bandage off? Should we just do it?
Well, before we get to, I'm going to annoy the entire audience by dragging this out, because before we get to that, I do want to talk about Lazarus and the journey of Lazarus.
Lazarus is a long journey.
Everyone agrees with me now. Brilliant.
So
the long journey of Lazarus. So as I understand it, you went through months and months and months to develop a base to then remove it from a base and win a Slayer sword. Do you want to?
So pre-COVID times, if anyone can remember, you know, like before we had the world ended.
Before they changed, they had to change all the batteries in the pigeons.
Yeah.
When time was consistent.
So I was working on Lazarus well before COVID.
Yeah.
And at the time I was, you know, Lazarus was mainly painted, and then I was trying to work out what base I wanted, and then I brought some of the iterations with me here because I've still got some of them, but I think there was about 7 in total that I went through. So first off, I mean, I don't know if I can get this on camera. I don't know if you've got a camera, but
we'll get a close up.
I was making like a very basic sort of a window scene, and then I wanted some steps with a window, and I had it on a plinth, and it was like, okay, that'll, you know, that was version 1.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, well, I want the window to be a bit bigger than that, and I want to like, sort of change that around. So then I started with like making some other plinths with some much bigger windows on, and they're ones I haven't got because I've cannibalized parts and bits and pieces. And then I went, actually, I want a massive window. So then I made this very, very large sort of display base where I'd made sort of part of a monastery, and there's steps, and there's a window, and there's another big window, and then there's all ruins. And I, as you can see, painted up probably 70% of it. Got quite far along with it. I went, maybe that's a little bit big.
Yeah.
Scale that down a bit. So then I decided that what I would do, because I wanted the stained glass effect in the window, I went down the 3D printing route. And I created a I created like a CAD of a stained glass window, extruded it all out, 3D printed it, and then that was sort of like, okay, I've got the window bit now worked out. So then I made a base for the window to sit on, and I made that out of like the model board, and then again painted most of that up. Then decided that the detailing in the model board itself. Model board's great, but then if you start going really fine onto it, it all starts crumbling and sort of breaking away. So I couldn't get it as intricate as I wanted it to be. So then I went back to drawing board and then 3D printed the actual base part again, and that's where it sort of brings me up to my first go at Golden Demon with Lazarus. So I created this base here that Lazarus was on, 2 parts of a 3D print, printed acetate in between, sandwiched, airbrushed the back of the acetate to sandwich in so you get the white come through. 3D printed the base and I
love the fact it's all the different companies. It looks great.
Yes. So again, that was the design that I'd have all the different Dark Angel companies with a Dark Angel symbol in the middle, and then I obviously put Lazarus on that. Took that to Golden Demon
2022.
The one that was in the first one after COVID.
Yes.
Because it was the one that they held in Nottingham because
it was a Warhammer World, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So I took that one to that event, which was a crazy event. I mean, that was the first demon after COVID, and
the competition.
It was unreal.
A lot of people had a lot of time to paint.
It's amazing what like a year of stuck in your home can do.
Yeah.
And that one was, as probably a lot of people will know, was sort of I put it into the 40k single because that's what
it was always meant to be single miniature, wasn't it?
Always wanted to be 40k single, and as you can tell, I'd scaled down the base. I'd made the base smaller because I felt it was too big. Put that into 40k single, and then I found out on the Sunday as we're going, found that the judges had then moved it, so they'd taken it out of 40k single and they moved it into diorama. So, not speaking to the judges, I mean, it's going to be probably based on the fact of how large the base was. It's a big base. That's too big for 40k single. We're going to put it in diorama. But bear in mind, the rules are very loose when it comes to it's like an appropriate sized base.
So they can just do that. They can just take your model and go, we think this is better in that category. Like,
yes, yeah. They can very much sort of. I mean, obviously the judge's decision is always final, but they can look at a piece and go, actually, no, that should be in this category, or that should be in that category. And in some demons, models have ping-ponged between categories where it got moved into open and then got moved back out of open, then got moved into a different sometimes it's moved about a lot. So it got moved into diorama, but the problem with that piece is it's not a diorama. The problem with it, if you've got Lazarus just stood there in front of a window, that's not going to compete very well against, crazy stuff going on and all these exciting things. So,
and that is, sorry to stop you. So we talked about this on our Adepticon video because, I mean, it would probably help if we read the rules, which we haven't. But like things like diorama. So we talked about, like, to us, and I think we kind of agreed on this. A squad, we think should be, you can take it off and play it. Like, I don't get the difference because obviously we've got here the Exodite, which we'll get to. Calm down, audience. We'll get to the Exodite. To me, that's more diorama-esque because that's not a playable piece and it's on a larger base. So is that not? Can you explain, like, what's the difference between a diorama and a single miniature?
Okay,
for us people with opinions and no knowledge.
Yes.
Okay, and I think that's 2 miniatures.
Usually
4 if you include the fish.
We need a close-up. We do.
Usually, the way it works is they state the number of models that would be in a thing. So in a squad, it's like should be
at least three, isn't it?
At least three models, and it states in 40k single that any single model that is not of a certain size would go in 40k single, including anything that is mounted.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
there you go, Pat.
So it being a mounted character means that it has to go. It has to go in 40k single.
Right.
Yeah. And then the only question would be: is the base a bit over the top and should be a diorama? Now, I would argue that wasn't a diorama, and I'd argue that the Exodite isn't a diorama because it's not really the base isn't doing anything other than there for that model to sort of stand there and be there. A diorama for me wouldn't be about what the base is; it'll be about what's going on the base.
Yeah.
So two models interacting, some sort of vignette scene where there's a story happening, and there's a story and you can tell it's a story piece.
Yes,
that's how I sort of look at diorama.
Yeah.
Like you said, there is a blurred line now because we call it squadrama, where you've got people that are entering squad and they're putting them on very decorative bases, and you're like, is it a diorama or is it a squad?
Yeah.
And there is this blurred line now where it's hard to say what is and what isn't, and that's a problem that the judges have to.
So you're taking but it's a problem for you guys potentially as well, because whenever you do something that's more extravagant, you're taking a risk that it might be seen. Because I would say, and I'm sure perhaps you would agree, that is in many ways as a single miniature more than what we had with the original Lazarus base.
Yes, yeah.
Because at least that's got the story of once there was some fish.
Yes,
like that's some narrative. Whereas there, you're right. That is just he's stood next to a window. Like that's as much as you'll get out of it.
Yeah, a lot of people said when I hadn't shown the Exodite off, and when I brought it along, some people went, "You did not learn your lesson."
That was going to lead into my question. Actually, were you slightly sweating it?
I was. I want to come back to how I view Golden Demon, but I view Golden Demon as a risk-taking event.
Yeah.
Because if you, again, we're talking about the rules, right? We're talking about the rules.
Well, you're a better man than me because I couldn't put that effort into painting and then thought, screw it, see how it goes.
I know Pat has already mentioned this, but it's like a Formula One team.
Hell yeah.
You are playing to the edge of the rules because that gives you the best chance of winning.
You want that competitive advantage.
If you play super safe and super bland and, I don't want to break any rules, you're really limiting what you're going to produce. If you take it right to the limit, sometimes you fail because you get told, no, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you succeed and people then get very angry that you've won.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how I view it. It's a risk-taking element. A lot of things I've entered, I've taken a risk with how I've done them. Like Lazarus' base being very big, that didn't pay off. But then I reworked it, and it did pay off. And
massively.
And there's lots of things I've done in the past. I've gone, how can I make this different? How can I make this stand out? And that's where I've pushed it. And it can be, you can win, but you can also lose. So
yeah.
Do
you feel you would have been okay if you'd at Adepticon found that the Exodite had been moved?
I never thought the Exodite would have been moved.
Cool.
There's the other thing with the Exodite was I thought it might get DQ'd.
Yeah.
That was the risk. That was the risk element. And I had it in my head as a 50-50.
Wow. It's a long way to go to have a 50-50, man. I admire your bravery.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope you didn't tell the wife that before you went. Do you know what? This I'm going to Chicago. This might get disqualified.
Right,
you know,
yeah.
love.
Why? Are we ready?
I want to
Go on.
say like the rework of Lazarus that won the Slayer sword, and that base in comparison is so minuscule.
yes, yeah.
And I remember, I think that to me, because as I'm sure people are aware that I'm sort of like newer to the hobby and sort of like looking at Golden Demon, I think that was the first sort of re-entry that I was aware of.
Yes,
And at the time, admittedly, I was like, well, so it didn't place, and then it changed the base, and you won. Like, what's going on there? But hearing more about how the competition works and all that kind of thing, it makes sense.
And again, with that base, the beauty of it all being 3D printed was I went, I will take that 3D print and I will cut this bit out and I will print that bit. So it was
great.
It literally, if you compare the
course,
two,
yeah.
it's exactly the same. All it is that centre part cut out, printed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So again,
Yeah.
it was a very easy job to do because it was a case of just edit the file, right, get that printed.
And then how did it feel winning that Slayer sword?
That was a really a crazy one because I was over there with Andy Wardle, and Andy had an amazing piece that year, a really amazing piece, and I was pretty sure he was going to win the Slayer sword with what he had. And so
was it Glutox or
yes, yeah, with the lovely MC Hammer pants.
Yeah, well, I'll show you. We'll get a pit. It's gorgeous with a little rat in the back. But go on.
Yeah, it was an amazing piece, and I remember. Again, it is the curse of Golden Demon sometimes because you'll get a lot of people say, "Oh, you're going to win. You're going to win. You're going to win the Slayer sword," and that's the worst thing because that when you don't win, you feel even worse because everyone's been building you up.
Felt like there was a bit of that for the Slayer sword entry at Adepticon. There was a whisper of that already.
Yeah.
With Andy's piece again.
Yes. So, and of course, I was saying to Andy, I think you've got this, mate. This is the one. And when they did the announcement, I was staring into Andy's eyes. I was going, oh, mate, you're going to...
Yeah,
and they called my name out, and I went, what?
That's not how you pronounce Andy Wardle.
Anyway, sorry, mate.
Anyway, cheers. Anyway, and then that was a very weird one for me because I wasn't expecting to win. So that obviously makes it even better when you do win because you're like, oh my God, I've won. So that was it was a great feeling. Obviously, that was my second sword, so I didn't feel it was a great feeling to win a second one, and it was pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah. So anyway, AI, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. There's the thumbnail.
So
why did you think it'd be disqualified?
Okay, so let's go back to the start with this one. So
Absolutely.
I had the Exodite, right? So I was trying to think of my next big piece, right? So I've done Lazarus. I'm thinking, what am I going to do now? I need something really impressive. So I had an idea. I actually was at the Adepticon preview show. You know, they do the things, and they showed off the new Agrodon rider. And I went, oh, they're rather nice. I went, what can I do with them? And I went, oh, I could do an Exodite with them. That'd be cool. So I started formulating this plan in my head, and I thought, well, that's going to be a really cool, interesting thing to paint. So I started formulating the model and building it all up, and I thought this is going to really hit people for six because obviously Exodites seem to be super popular.
Yes,
and Games Workshop give them no love whatsoever.
Yeah, apparently it's something to do with the rights.
Oh, is it? Oh.
I remember in my very brief time at Workshop when the animation on Warhammer Plus came out called the Exodite or something like that. My manager at the time was saying something, and apparently it's something to do with the rights and like all the various different older companies of Workshop and this, that, and the other, like how they got rid of squats and stuff like that. I'm more than happy to be wrong, but that is one of the rumours.
Oh, well, I mean, so I thought this will be cool because people will go mad when they see that, and I used to watch the little previews, little square ones.
Yeah.
Whenever it was something that was a bit nondescript, you'd always see people going, Exodites, it's going to be Exodites. I always thought, oh, well, people are going to love this when I drop this one. So I worked on it, quietly away. And I had in my mind that I wanted to have been doing a backdrop because I felt the Lazarus piece what I wanted to do a backdrop, and that's what the window was meant to be, backdrop to the model.
Yeah.
And so I was like, right, I really want to do a backdrop. I'm going to work this out. And I had a few ideas of what I wanted, the story that I wanted to have for the model and all this sort of stuff. I had all these crazy ideas. And I thought, it'd be cool to have a river. It'd be cool to have some, some fish and some resin and make it look really cool. And on the backdrop piece, I was like, well, I want to have a jungle scene. I want vines. I want a river going through. And I was very much... I'm very much keen and into AI. I think is a fabulous tool. And I thought, I've got an idea. I could use something that no one's ever used before. I could put something on here that is going to be, everyone's going to go, first person to ever use it. Isn't that amazing?
How'd that work out for you?
How naive was I? So I sort of started working away on it. And bear in mind, I've been working away on it pretty much the whole year before the old Adepticon to the new Adepticon. And I was sort of working away, building it all, doing lots of work in AI to actually generate the piece that I wanted. Because again, as much as people might say, this is really easy, you just type a thing in, it is so not easy. Yeah, I mean, I probably did 200 different prompts to get where I needed to be. Generate a jungle with a river, and then you get, no, I don't want to. Generate a Borneo jungle with a river and vines. No, that's not it. And keep doing it over and over again. And can you take this bit out? Can you make this bit bigger? And formulating it took a very long time. And the one thing I kept saying in my mind, the reason I thought it would get disqualified was I didn't paint it onto the actual backdrop. I printed it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, they'll probably look at that and go, that's printed. He didn't paint that.
Yeah. In a painting competition.
He didn't paint it. Okay, we're gonna disqualify this because it's not painted. It's been printed.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's probably a 50-50 whether they consider that a good thing or a bad thing. So I was weighing it up, and in the end, I went, well, if I'm doing this, I want to do it to the purest way I could do it, i.e. AI, print it, put it on there. And of course, I've added in 3D elements coming out of there. I did a lot of work. I touched up certain areas with a brush, and there's varnishing. I put filters over it. There was a lot of work post-production after I generated the image.
So it'd probably been faster if you just actually painted it by hand.
Yeah. And some people going, it should have all been out of focus. And I was going, I could have done that with an airbrush in one night. Well, with an airbrush, making a blurred out image. It would have been very easy to do. This was probably harder to do than that. And I honestly thought that most people, the issue would be it's printed, and not that it's AI. is where it sort of kicks off from. So of course, when I'd taken it to the competition, I was very open about what it was and what I'd done. I was sort of I did this, I did this, and of course nothing was said. Nothing. But
and then it
was the
happened afterwards.
The online people that I think lost their mind about.
Do you think the judges knew it was an AI image?
Probably not. I mean, I had no work in progress of this up on my up on my Instagram. There were a handful of people that knew, because we've got painting WhatsApp groups and things, and I put up things, and I told them what I was doing, and I was showing them the images I was generating and stuff. So there were a handful of people that knew.
Yeah.
But again, with the judging side of it, you don't generally go up to the judge and go, here's my piece. By the way, I use this red here, and you don't give a breakdown of it. You go, here's my piece. Please judge. Yeah. So there was some talk that there was an issue with a backdrop when the judging was happening, and when I heard that, I was like, oh God, that probably might be mine. Yeah. And that could mean that I've been disqualified. So again, on the award ceremony, I didn't know that if I was going to win, and I stood up there at the front going, might not win this because there's been some problems here. So I thought everything was fine. It was only the week or two after, or that week after, I think it was, that it all went a bit nuts.
Yeah. So AI is a very sort of divisive conversation at the moment, I guess.
Yes.
And for myself, I mean, my AI usage is the audio for this podcast. There's a make better button in Adobe Premiere Pro, and I go, I'd like my audio to sound a bit better, and it does that for me. And then sometimes for video titles on ChatGPT or something like that. I don't know what goes into making an image like that. I can imagine somebody watching this going, yes, but you didn't make that yourself.
Yeah, but again though, so I was looking into the legalities of it as well, because when I was creating, I was thinking, what's the copyright here, etc., etc. And I did do some research, and it states that whoever the UK law states, whoever creates the prompt is deemed as the creator of that piece of AI. And so I looked at it and went, well, if I'm doing the prompt and I'm the creator, I created that piece of AI. So I know there's a lot of talk of, legalities of it and all that,
like plagiarism
and all this
so
sort
on
of
and so
stuff.
forth,
I looked into some, just Google, who legally owns an AI generated image and all this sort of stuff. And it was very much sort of, it's not copyrighted, it can't be copyrighted, and the creator would be the person that used the prompt and all this sort of stuff. So I looked at it very much from a rules standpoint and went, I haven't broken any rules here. I haven't used AI to break any rules, because I didn't pay it much attention when I did it. I went, oh no, I'm fine. I'm I'm well within my limits to do it. And of course, then there was the whole massive furore that broke out afterwards.
Were you shocked by that?
In a way, I was, because when the first couple of comments come up, I sort of I thought, this is quite funny. There's some upset people on the internet. And and that's when I did my post, which people probably have seen on there, where I then used AI to respond to one of the people angry about AI. And that did stoke the flames somewhat. And the funny thing of that was I did that thing, and then my Instagram's going quite wild, and I had a notification ping up on my Instagram, and it said, would you like to limit comments? And I went, well, that's weird.
Wow,
I've never seen this before. And I didn't really pay much attention. I just hit whatever, because I was trying to read what was going on. And then I realised what Instagram was doing was going, we'll take all the sweary ones away.
They're trying to protect you.
And then later on, it was like, would you like to review these comments? And I went on there, and this is where you're going to need your bleep machine.
I use it less and less these days. It's quite fun.
And it was...
Hey, I was...
And it was like, you effing this. And I was going, ooh, this is a bit spicy. And that's when I went...
I love that. It's not to speak.
And I pretty much went, I'll leave the internet alone for a few weeks. And it was just quite funny, because it was all kicking off. And I find it quite funny. When people get angry online and they're all raging, I just want to laugh at it and think, why are you getting upset about? It's one of those things.
I think Tommy said something in the chat when he was there, and he talked about people getting mad about how other people do their hobby, and his response was, just fuck off.
That was exactly what he said. When it's your hobby, don't leave someone alone doing their hobby. And he was but you're right, that was his a lovely Mancunian tones.
I try to think about, in lots of elements of life, think about how people, not myself, think about things, and all that sort of stuff. And if I was looking at that piece, part of me would go, oh, it's a painting competition, and it's not painted. So there's that. I can fully understand someone thinking that. But then also, if it's a miniature painting competition, do the backdrops, do they matter that much?
The funny thing was the rage seemed to be very confused. It wasn't all angled at the same thing. So you had some people saying that I cheated because the only reason I had won was because I'd used AI. And then there were some people
it's not
saying,
the flawlessly painted fish.
And then there were some people angry that not because I'd won, but because AI is theft. AI art is theft. And that I should be ashamed because I've used stolen imagery. And then some people were also saying that I'd broken the rules, and therefore I should not have won because I'd broken the rules. And the best one about that was they were taking screenshots of the Golden Demon rules, and where they'd use a section where they talked about background of the piece, where they're talking about, the fluff, the flavour, Space Marines, Ultramarines should always be painted blue.
Right.
But they're going, see, it clearly says background. It clearly no, they're not talking about the backdrop. They're talking
about the background of the law.
And of course, then going, see, he broke the rules, and I'm going, no, I didn't break the rules. That you're completely getting the wrong end of the stick. So there's this very confused argument where some people are angry at this thing, some people are angry at that thing, but it all merged into one. And of course, then you get lots of DMs and people angry, but then you're getting some people going, are you all right? Everything okay?
Oh,
and people that I've never
I like those ones.
Yeah, and people that I've never spoken to online before, like quite well-known painters, saying, "Oh, by the way, we're with you. It's just a tool. You've done nothing wrong. Don't let them get you down." So there were good elements to it as well as all the negativity that was flying around. So I was fine with it.
How bad did it get?
I had some really nasty DMs. So some really, really vitriol, like almost shouting into the void sort of, I had to give back all my awards and Slayer swords and never paint again. I should be absolutely ashamed of myself and all of this sort of stuff. And I'm going, wow, it's a painting competition.
Yeah. My big question with regards to it, do you regret it?
No. Not one bit. I stand by it, and as you guys know, I recently took it to another painting competition.
Yes,
and entered it into that painting competition with zero fucks, because to the point in which Andy Wardle said, because I originally just entered that one piece into the competition.
Yeah.
He went, "Please, mate, enter some other bits." He went, because I really don't want to have that row. and I entered it into the MPO, and I entered it as the Exodite, but with a capital A and an I in the Exodite.
Oh, brilliant. You love it, don't you? You seem to love it on the front.
So I really, for me, I'm not worried about it at all. And at the MPO, I had obviously a lot of people coming up and talking to me about it, which was quite, and I was happy to talk to everyone
So
about it.
you're not angry in the flesh?
Nope. I mean, let's face it, the people that are angry on the internet are a certain type of person, and
keyboard warriors.
I think we call them virgins.
Yeah,
but they're very.
You're going to get us cancelled at this rate.
But they're so
if you'd like to direct your complaints to PO Box,
make sure we put his Instagram up in the links at the bottom.
People get angry about it, but the real angry people are. Are never going to come up to you face to face and talk to you. And most of the people as well, like well-known painters that I've people have told me, "Oh, so-and-so is really upset about your piece." I've spoken to them and they've gone, "Yeah, well, I really preferred it if you'd painted that backdrop." And I've gone, yeah, I get that. I went, but I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it this way. And and then they go, "Oh, yeah, okay."
Yeah.
So there's a lot of anger, but then there's not, because people aren't. No one has come up into my face and shouted at me yet.
Yeah.
and the best bit of the MPO, I think I had about 9 or 10 people come up to me and to say, and every word, "Well, can I speak to you about your entry?" And I went, "Yeah, sure." And it'll be like, "How did you do this AI? Why did you do the AI this way?" And I explained, I was talking to everyone about it. And then one guy at the very end of the MPO went, and he looked a little bit like, he came on, "Can I speak to you about your entry?" And my mate went, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah.
And he went, "The resin on your base.
Oh,
How did you do that? How did you make it so the resin doesn't climb up that side?" And I went, "Oh, not an AI question." And so it was nice to speak to everyone about it. But like I said, most people are fine with it.
how did getting that level of anger for, without me devaluing it, painting toy soldiers? What did your other half think?
She doesn't care.
If you've been my wife, you go, "Well, it's your own fault for doing it in the first place."
My wife doesn't really pay much attention to what I do in the hobby, and in fact, it's more of an annoyance to her than anything else. So I think she'd be quite glad that I was getting a comeuppance from the
You'll
internet.
put him off doing it again.
yeah.
So
I'll teach him to go to Chicago.
Because I think this Adepticon has been quite sort of arguably controversial for AI, for the Slayer Sword winning piece, potentially the reverse thing. How was that done?
Yeah.
3D printing's been a part of it, and there's there's rules on 3D printing, isn't there? So you can 3D print stuff, but
the rules. So the rules clearly say you're more than welcome to use a 3D printer. There's nothing wrong with 3D printing in Golden Demon.
Yeah.
The only caveat that they've now brought in, bear in mind this is a rule that's only just come out.
Oh, right, okay.
Is that if an item has been 3D printed, or it has to be sculpted by the painter.
yeah.
So,
okay, so commissions are out now as
so
well.
what they basically stopped was very good experienced painters teaming up with massively clever sculptor, creating major one-off pieces that you can't really compete at if you're just a painter. And I quite like the rule because I don't know any sculptors and I can sculpt very basic things. And if you went to that sculptor that sculpted that amazing piece and went, "Oh, could you make me a so-and-so?" They go, "No, I only work with so-and-so." So you're at a disadvantage because you can't compete on a level playing field.
Yeah.
So in some ways now it feels a bit fairer because they're saying,
Yeah.
if 3D print it all you like and sculpt it if you like, but you sculpt it rather than someone else sculpt it.
Yeah,
So
I
it
get
makes
that
it
rule.
fairer.
It's unfortunate. I know someone who's working on a 3D printed piece that was commission sculpted, and I was so excited to see that enter a competition. But now, obviously, it can't because it wasn't sculpted by the artist. So.
The key thing is though, if you do that, it's fine. Enter it into a different competition.
Yeah.
There's loads.
You're
of them.
right.
There's
You're right.
tons of competitions.
Yeah.
It just you can't take it to a Golden Demon. You know,
Yeah.
MPO, Monty, Scale Model Challenge. There's tons of them.
Yeah.
And just take it to those.
I actually was reading a message someone said a little while back saying, I don't think it's in the spirit of the game that if you've won at Golden Demon, you should ever take that merchant to any other painting competition. And I thought that was ridiculous because I thought the amount of time it takes.
Yeah.
It only gets to be seen once.
Yeah.
There used to be in Crystal Brush, their rule used to state that to enter the Crystal Brush, the piece could not have been entered into a previous competition and that it couldn't have been publicised. So to try and make theirs all super unique.
Yeah, special.
So if you did the whole thing of taking, you had to do Crystal Brush first, get that done, and then go Golden Demon and all the other ones you wanted to do, so to make sure that you had a unique piece at the start, sort of thing. But yeah, it's crazy because you could, I spent a whole year doing the Exodite, and if you then said you can enter it into one competition, you'd be like, oh, it's a bit of a waste.
Yeah.
I think there probably is a time though when something's been entered so many times to so many competitions. Like, does it get a bit old hat? Like, we've seen that. Like, I've seen some artists go what I would say is beyond the norm in regard to entries, and I'm like, it's fantastic. It's a great piece, but do something new, do something original.
There's an element of re-entries in Golden Demon where you can go, okay, that didn't place, I will rework it and change it. And I've done that a fair few times, obviously Lazarus being the most notable, but the Dark Elder guy on the bridge, I took him to Crystal Brush, he got a silver, took him to Golden Demon where he didn't place, and the feedback was that they didn't like the head, the way I painted the face. I removed that head and did a whole new one. Then when I took him to Adepticon, when Lazarus won, I put that into open, and I got silver for it in open. So if you're willing to put extra work into it, it can do something. But then there's an element where sometimes you just need to retire something or retire something. It goes past the point of being viable. If you've entered it 4 or 5 times, you're probably best off giving up on that and doing something else. But if you feel as though you were just off the mark because of something small, you should maybe rework it and try again, but maybe not try over and over.
I'd love to see, if you'd won gold and you were like, I'm going to rework it because I want to win the Slayer sword. Or
Well, you're not allowed to do that.
oh, you're not.
Against the rules,
So if you get a trophy, is that right? You cannot re-enter.
If a model has won a trophy, a place in any Golden Demon, it then is deemed uneligible to be entered into another Golden Demon.
Okay, fair.
Which I think is a good way of stopping maybe a few people with super pieces. Maybe going, I'll do US Demon and I'll do UK Demon, I'll do European Demon, and going
clear up
and
Run
being,
down a wall space for the swords.
Yeah, exactly. So they try and obviously limit it that way.
Do you anticipate, because of this and because of, I guess, like the negative sort of backlash to it, do you anticipate a rule change?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I would have thought that by the time we come around to Golden Demon Germany, which is in October time, the rule pack will be updated again, because they regularly update it, and there will be a piece in there probably about something that back, like, everything has to be painted.
Yeah.
Or there's an element that,
Yeah.
so they stop printed things. So I don't think they'll mention AI, but I think they'll do it in a way that stops you from printing a backdrop and using it. So
Yeah.
therefore it will kill that out of the
Is that
game.
the first printed backdrop that you've ever seen?
Yes, as far as I know. Yeah. I don't think anyone else has done a printed backdrop, as far as I know, but there might be something there.
I don't know if anyone's going to try it again, if I'm honest.
If they did, they might be silly.
Because I think that for me, and we talked about this before, is this whole thing of like you saying, oh well, AI, it's stolen art.
Yes, yeah.
Because it's an amalgam of lots of people's pieces of art and brought together. And I think that to me doesn't hold water on the grounds. The fact that if you decided you were entering John Blanche's Black Templars on a Hill from 3rd edition,
Yeah.
well, the composition and the design and who stood where has already been designed by somebody else.
Yeah, indeed.
And then you mimic it.
Yeah, completely.
You haven't thought it up yourself.
Yeah.
You are copying a pre-existing piece of art. You're just changing the medium.
And that is
That's
how
you've done it.
As artists, that's generally how we work. As well, if you think about it, you want to do something, you find inspiration, you adapt it, and you make your own thing, which is pretty much like how the AI is going. You want a thing, I can see these things that are similar, and I will mash them together and make what you want. And the AI theft piece, I think you can get deeper into it, because I use Midjourney for mine, and I know there's a lot of legality problems with Midjourney. Like, there's a lot of people suing Midjourney, artists are suing them because of they're saying that they've stolen their artwork, etc. But then there's AI art that is completely legitimate, that has no issue. So Adobe Firefly only uses their own copyrighted material. So if you use Adobe Firefly, you are completely, absolved of that issue. Same with Getty Images; they now have their own AI, only using their own copyrighted
And Getty
material.
have a
And Getty
huge
have a
catalogue.
huge catalogue.
Yeah.
So if you think that you could say that, AI art is theft, can you argue that if it was made with Getty Images or if it was made by Adobe Firefly?
I try and think of the argument as, like, I wouldn't be able to paint a backdrop that well, probably ever. But I might be able to, if I put the time in, do the prompts and get that. So, like, say for someone like myself, if I enter Golden Demon with like that yellow monstrosity that I painted, and it's just awful, but then put a printed backdrop in, someone would go, well, you're cheating. And it's like, yes, I am, because I'm crap. I don't know where I'm going. Is there less skill involved?
Well, yeah, I suppose there's an argument about skill level, right? There's an argument to say that if you're using AI, it's not hard to do. I would argue that it is harder to do than people think, because
I've never tried.
It's actually got a lot harder to get it to produce what you want. Sometimes it's like talking to a toddler and getting to do what you want to do. Go, no, I didn't mean it like that. Do this thing. But then there's also the argument I'd also say is there's lots of other things that you could say. People used to say airbrushing was cheating.
Yeah.
Using an airbrush is cheating. Everyone used to say that, it's too easy. You shouldn't use an airbrush in competition pieces. It's too easy. Some people could say that using some sort of CAD to make 3D prints, well, that's cheating. You're using a computer to do it, and you aren't sitting there with putty and sculpting it yourself. There's lots of things that people will say, well, that's just easy. That's cheating. But is it though? There's an art to it.
There was a good analogy of that the other day. I've been looking at this app for trying to get people to become mountain bike fit.
Oh, right.
And there was a guy he was talking a little bit about it, and he's talking about the people's opinions on things, and it was like, if you ride an electric mountain bike, you're cheating.
Yeah.
And he said, if you're on a mountain bike and it's getting you out the house, but then he said, if you take my bike, he says, which has no electrical ability, and we take my bike to 1992, and we stand it against a mountain biker's bike then, and they go, disc brakes, 29-inch wheels, carbon alloy, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And he said, and I threw it down a hill against somebody riding a 1992 bike. He said, someone would tell me I'm cheating.
Yeah.
And he said, and I don't have any electric hub helping me.
Yeah.
but it'd be based on the weight and what the bike's ability to be able to deal with. And this is the thing, isn't it? We don't stand still. And you know, and I know that fact that when you boil it down to its most basic of things, paint on a brush is virtually as old as bloom and time. But we, you know, and that's at its core, that's what we do. But the whole world has changed around that. You just can't sit still on it.
I mean, if you think about it, using transfers, is that cheating?
Well, that's it, isn't it? You know
you're using a printed thing on a model. You know, there's lots of arguments.
Yeah, because you've not painted it.
You haven't painted that if you put a transfer on, but I've seen lots of people win a demon with a vehicle with transfers on.
Yeah.
Is that cheating? Yeah, so then you get to this thing of, is it a tool? You know, and that's how I see AI. I see it as a tool. You know, I use it all the time, you know. Can't be asked to write that email.
Yeah.
Say yes, please, but in a nice way.
Yeah, I've a friend who runs his videography business, and all of his emails are written, like his responses are AI.
Yeah. And so I think it's a tool to be used. I mean, I don't think many people will be using it for miniature painting anytime soon again.
I mean, it's interesting to see like what will happen, because we don't know yet, I guess, at the time of recording.
It'd be interesting if the rules don't change, to see if someone's got the bottle to follow in your footsteps. And you'll have to go up to them and go, well done, mate, good luck.
I pass the torch to you anyway.
Have you got Instagram? Yeah, I'd maybe get rid of that. I'd get rid of that for about a year or so.
But I think all this conversation obviously does detract from the fact that it is still an exceptional piece of work, and he won gold, so well bloody done.
Well, this is the thing that made me laugh about it, is the fact that it's amazing. I'm lucky enough now to have seen it for the third time, but it's, you know, it's gone, people raging, and you're going, and without, sorry while I blow sunshine up your backside, but going, oh, but it's AI, and you're going, what, you mean that guy with the 2 Slayer swords may not have won if it... It's like, you know, let's put it into perspective. You know what I mean? If no one had ever knew who you were, and then you'd rocked up, won a gold with an AI backdrop.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people...
You've earned your stripes, haven't you? It's not like it's... You know what I mean?
I think a lot of people... There was a few people, especially online, that had maybe entered 40k single and hadn't won or hadn't placed, and then maybe felt hard done by that someone had placed, but they cheated. Not looking into the fact that I do have the technical skill to be able to win a golden demon.
Yeah.
And that maybe there were other factors in their piece that made them lose.
Yeah.
You know, so there's an element that people don't they see the rose tinted glasses. Well, I should have won, he should have lost. That's not fair.
If I was a reasonably competent competition painter and I was going into single 40k, my main concern would be, oh, bollocks, Neil Hollis has entered that, as opposed to Neil Hollis has entered that with an AI printed backdrop with, you know, I think the first bit covers the problem, the second bit, you know, and I don't, you know, as much as I'm complimentary about your talent, you know, I'm not trying to portray it that way. And this is like, it's getting a matter of perspective on the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah, completely.
You know?
I think what you were saying earlier, the opinion, whilst, like you say, the internet is noisy and it's full of a lot of people with a lot of opinions, but miniature painting competitions are like golf. They're not football. It's not one team versus another and this skill versus that. This is you versus you every time, and you've got to get better than you last time. And then hopefully what you choose, your approach, is considered better by what is pretty much a random group of people against the other competitions. So the only opinion I think that matters in regard to whether this is okay or not is not okay is your peers. Is those people within the competition who are going, if some of them complain and start going, judges, AI, blah, blah, if they change the rules, fine, the rules are changed. But this isn't against the rules. AI it's scary, but I think people are not objecting to what it is. They're objecting to the future where creativity is reduced. That's the fear.
For me, I mean, thinking about AI and how I would utilise it in the future is, I think it's a great prototyping tool where you could say, okay, I'm thinking of creating this piece. Okay, you know, create me this sort of scene. And generate this thing in this scene, get some ideas and inspiration from it. And then you can use that and create new, interesting things. I don't think, the thing with AI, I think someone once told me, like, AI won't take your job, but someone using AI will take your job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how I think you've got to look at it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of putting it.
If you refuse to
Yeah.
use it and you throw your toys out the pram and just scream and shout, someone will come along and go, I can do that, but I will make it better
Yeah.
than you can.
Yeah, like
and
you can't get in the way of, like, progression is going to happen
Yeah.
Yeah.
regardless, whether you like it or not.
yeah, the Luddites smashing the machines up north, that worked out well for them, didn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly
But,
what it is.
Just to go back on what you said there about saying it's like golf, it's funny because I think in a lot of ways, Golden Demon, the thing it most relates to is playing at a tournament. You have to be at home, work out your tournament list, have a basic idea of what you might play against, but no concrete knowledge of what you're going to play
yeah,
against,
completely.
and understand what, if we go with, like you're saying about understanding the rules of what's probably going to do well in Golden Demon, you've got a basic understanding of what's probably going to be your optimized list for going into a tournament, but you still don't know first game if you're playing against Orcs or if you're playing against Adeptus Mechanicus or whatever.
Yep.
And you've got to figure it out, haven't you? And I think when you paint your miniature, it's very much in that same thing. You can only paint it for yourself and to the best of your ability and your knowledge, because you don't know what's going to be in there.
No, yeah, and
You know
that
what I
happens a lot, you know, where with a lot of painting groups now, you often get, so-and-so's painting so-and-so for that category.
Yeah.
So you have an idea that what might be hot one year or categories to avoid. But you're right, you have an idea, you build it, you formulate it, and you sometimes do turn up on the day and go, oh, these other 3 amazing painters are in my category.
It's like the gent who won Slayer Sword very cleverly in all his work in progress with shots didn't show the mirror image. Did he?
Yeah, no,
And it was
yeah.
nicely painted vampire stood on the bit of land.
Yes.
And it wasn't until it turned up you're going, oh, hang on.
Yeah, and the funny thing was, I had people saying, have you seen Alex de Santos' mirror piece? And I kept going, I looked on his Instagram and went, what are you talking about? And it was only like the
When
day
you
of
see-
the event.
you
I went,
went, that.
Yeah.
now I know what you mean. Yeah, and again, that's a fabulous concept. You know,
Yeah.
like a really good idea, really well executed,
Yeah.
brilliantly painted. Because I've competed against Alex in, like, Lazarus was gold and his entry was silver
Yeah.
that year. He is a phenomenal painter, so he's great concept. He's executed it brilliantly and he's painted it brilliantly. So he's covered all those bases. He's he's found the magic formula and he's maxed it out. So you've got to give him props for knowing how to play the game.
Yeah,
He
and he took a
cheated,
risk as well.
And he took a risk.
Well, he
yeah.
cheated. It was 3D printed.
Imagine if he'd also entered that and it had an AI backdrop as well to go with.
Oh, don't.
The internet would still be on fire now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, is Warhammer over?
I think that's the thing to laugh at, though, isn't it? It's the term cheating, like, and the good thing, and I'm going to blow smoke up your ass now. Not smoke, sunshine. We'll do the smoke later. No, but it's you're not going out there like hiding, and you're not going out and just AI and keeping it quiet.
Yeah.
Like, people are coming to you and going, that's AI, and it's okay, I'll talk about it. Because if we don't talk about it, we won't progress and move on. It'll be that quiet little thing. No one's already, and I'm fully aware of this, 3D printing exists, guys. Shock horror.
Get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't there a podcast for that?
There's a really good YouTube channel.
What's it called?
Foxhammer.
Foxhammer,
yeah. But yeah, so that exists, but people really just don't want to talk about it because we don't want to upset Games Workshop and blah, blah, blah. But actually, yeah, this exists, and not only does it exist, it's I understand their uncomfort with it, but it's winning your competitions, guys, and people are using this. It's a viable tool, and by hiding it, by not talking about it, that isn't helping progress. Like you said, there's no use crying over spilt milk. The cat's out of the bag. You can't, like with AI, you can't put it back in. It exists.
Saying I think me and my dad were having a conversation about I think it was like when the Trident submarines were getting renewed and nuclear weapons and that sort of stuff, and he looked at me and he was like, well, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah.
I think I said, so I've always liked that.
Would you like to see it, now that you've seen the reactions to it and whatnot, But do you think it should be something that goes on? Would you think if Golden Demon, if they don't change the rules and say you've now set some sort of standard going forward, would you be happy, or do you think?
If it was a thing of like, this is a fine thing to do, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Again, I would play to that limit.
Yeah,
I would go, you're allowed to do this, right? How can I make mine the best of that then, and utilize it? I don't think that'll happen. I think they'll put a clever wording in that means that you're not allowed to do it. But yeah, if the ability is there to use a tool, you should use the tool. If you want to. I mean, you don't have to, but I always look for the edge. I'm always looking for, what can I do that someone's not done before? What can I do that's new and interesting? You know, if you look at the first feedback I ever got was, you've already done Iron Hands, you need to do something different. And that's pretty much what I've tried to push with lots of things I've done, is what's different, what's new, what's interesting. And why would you not use, if someone said you can do this thing, then you should do it, you should use it.
Do you know what I like from that response is now, you know, you're the third painter that we've had on in recent weeks, and I think I like that your view on it is that literally pushing it to the edge. And you know, and you know, James doesn't approach it that way. James goes a different angle on it, but I like the idea, and that you literally like. I like the bravery of going, how close can I get?
Yeah.
And I like to say, to go all the way to, because you know, we made the journey, and you know, and thankfully I was lucky enough to make the journey to Chicago on somebody else's wallet.
Yes, yeah.
Not on my own.
Good old Byron.
Yeah.
Thanks, Byron. We love you.
He very kindly took me there, and you know, fed, watered me, and gave me somewhere to sleep, and you know, and it was a lovely and really an experience that I'm very honoured to have. How I've experienced, but you know, to get on a plane and go, I might get knocked out of this.
Yeah. But I think
it's very impressive to make that decision.
Also, the flip side to that is not pushing it to the edge, right, and think you might get disqualified, or playing it ultra safe, thinking, well, I probably won't place because there'll be other stuff there that will be better. What's worse, you know?
Yeah.
Not placing and going, I could have pushed that a bit more, or I might get disqualified because I'm right at the edge of this. You know, I might. So it's a similar sort of thing, really.
Ask you a different question altogether while it's in my brain. You're going into whichever category it is you're entering your next miniature in. Whose name makes you sink when you realise they're in the same category? Who's the first name to go, oh, no?
Okay, so out of the group of painters that I talk a lot with, we generally try and make sure we dodge each other's categories.
It's a consortium. It's a Golden Demon conspiracy.
You know, the best of it is they work it all out on AI.
We do have a spreadsheet.
And I bet it's 3D printed.
But
there's your thumbnail.
But yeah, I would say that if we all went for the same category,
Are you coming for strokes now, are you? Yeah.
if we all went for the same category, that's where it would be the hardest for me, because if Rich Gray and Andy Wardle and we're all in the same category, you then start going, this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
You know, and there are other, I'm trying to think, there are lots
Is that
of
when you think, you know, I'll add another 2 more lizards to that and put that in a diorama?
there's definitely some of the people I know very well, I wouldn't want to actively go up against them if I had a choice.
Yes.
You know, if it's a case of, you know, we don't usually clash, but if we're in the same category, it's always a bit, oh wow, actually this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Is that because it's awkward, or because you just don't want to go against it? Yeah.
Think about it. It's awkward if one of you wins and one of you doesn't, because suddenly, you know, you're good mates, and then you're consoling your
Rivals.
mate while you're also going, yeah, I won. You know, so it's
It's like when they're in the same Formula One team to go back there again.
Yeah. So I mean, there's that element to it, but then there's it's also you know, like it's myself, Andy, and Rich. We all have a different style.
Yeah.
And so certain things, you know, that, you know, Rich is going to go crazy on some freehand. It's going to have lots of minute detail. It's going to have amazing NMM. then Andy's going to have probably much brighter colours. It's going to have some great composition. So there's elements that we're probably good at different elements, but then it'll be a very tricky one to sort of compete.
What do you think when you talk about good NMM composition, freehand? What do you think them guys think is your thing that they don't like to go up against?
AI.
I wish I knew AI as good as Neil Hollis.
I tell you what, this has been. I know they've said this a lot before because obviously, Rich, you all right there, mate?
No, think I'm the wrong way. Oh, Heinrich maneuver. There we go.
Right,
Hello, everyone.
yeah.
There you go.
So
Seamless.
and we're back.
I'm just going to leave all that in.
Yeah.
One of the things they've spoke about a lot before is Rich, full-time miniature painter. Right?
Yes.
Andy, now full-time miniature
Yes.
painter. Wasn't, but is now.
Yeah.
And they paint every day of the week.
Yeah.
However, they don't get to paint their competition models every day of the week.
Is that having to earn money?
They're having to paint the latest G-Dub stuff that they've been sent for content and create videos and paint armies. And Rich is great at painting the head and shoulders of every miniature he gets, but then not going any further.
Yeah.
And I have a full-time job and I can pick one model and paint it every night, 4 hours for an entire year. And I've got that ability to focus in on something for a massive amount of time and make it as good as possible, where they will have to fit it in around all the other stuff they're painting. So I have, I think, an advantage that I can plough time into a project that they could not afford to do. Like, you know, the Exodite, if you added up the hours, and I can't even work it out, it's ridiculous the amount of hours I spent on it. They could not have spent that many hours on the project because they would then not be making their content and they would not be making any money.
Yeah.
How squeaky bum was it doing the resin?
Not as bad as you'd think, actually. I did a lot of test casts for the resin, and I mean, the fun fact I got about that as well is the resin was that good that Taro contacted me and then said, "What resin have you used? That's amazing."
Wow.
So I was giving Taro tips on resin, which was quite cool. But so I did a few test casts.
Brilliant.
And I went, I bought a vacuum chamber and I was like, degassing all the resin and doing all this stuff. I worked out the way I wanted to. That I was using acetate for the barrier, hot glue to hold the acetate in place. I refined the process down so that when I did the cut, when I actually poured it, I was actually quite stress-free because I'd done so much prep into it that I did it and then it came out and I was super happy with it. And then I sort of sanded it all back and then polished it all up and it came out exactly how I wanted it to.
Apparently it can still be a bit like witchcraft, can't it? Resin can just suddenly take on a mind of its own of what it's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, the product I found was it's a product called Glass Cast, so it's very UV stable, and it, even when Tara was using it, he was messaging me like, "How have you found this with the bubbles and that stuff?" But I found it very easy to work with. It has like a really long pot life of like 36 hours. So you've got tons of time to try and get those bubbles out of there if there are.
Oh, great! Yeah.
If you heat it slightly, the bubbles naturally just pop within the resin, and they also sell like a polishing compound for it. So you sand it all back, and then you go up to these super fine grits, and then use this polishing compound on it, and it just is like
glass.
Wow, super smooth.
It must be I know you're saying you were feeling quite comfortable, but it must have some level of sweat to it because the fact that you have to you commit to putting the fish in, and then what you've painted that's got to be in it. I assume you leave, don't go anywhere, and then also as you mentioned to me earlier, it's a custom plinth by Taro.
Yes, yeah.
So it's like it's all of them elements that I see. I just, as a man who just lives on the brink of anxiety on a number of things, it's all the thing of going, how much do I paint? What about this? What that? And then
the way I tackle it is you. Obviously, creating the cutout bit that the resin's poured into, you paint. You just concentrate on the area. You don't paint the rest of it. You paint that bit.
Yeah.
You make that bit good. You paint the fish. You put them in. Worst case scenario, you have to rip that chunk of resin out and do that section again.
Yeah.
But you're not having to you're not wasting the whole plinth. You just rip it out, start again. So you would just, so it didn't work out. But I was sanding a lot of it back. Like, so the rocks above the waterline got heavily blasted when I was sanding the resin down. So I had to resculpt some of them and then paint them in again because I had painted the bits just above the waterline, but then I had to redo it. But that's quite minor. Once the resin's poured and it's good, then you don't mind reworking the rest of it.
You were talking about like you spend like 4 hours in an evening doing this. Is this like you're like I'm kind of curious as to your process. Is like do you sit down and maybe you put the telly on and that sort of distracting you? You just sit there.
Painting phase on in the background.
Yeah, something like that.
Like,
yeah.
But
I mean, he watches. He quoted my
does,
F1
yeah.
reference.
Yeah.
see?
But that was he listened on the way up. But yeah, like do you
The
sit
best
there
of.
with like the telly on, just chilling out, having a paint, or are you laser focused? This is me, no noise, maybe some classical music or something. And like, what is your zone?
I paint late at night, very late at night. I'll start 11 p.m, paint through to maybe 2 a.m.
Wow.
So do a very late session. So my painting has evolved over the years. Before I had kids, it was a case of I would paint after work. And I would do, then my wife would be working away doing some stuff and I'd sit and do some painting. Then we had kids and I couldn't do that anymore.
No.
So my painting time has moved at different parts throughout the day. And where I am now is do all the sort of, household duties. You have dinner, you clean up, and then my wife will start watching some TV programs. And about 11 o'clock, when she's almost ready to go to bed, I'll then start painting. So I do a very late night painting session, and I'll usually just put something on in the background. Could be YouTube, could be a podcast, something generally that I can just listen to rather than watch.
Yeah.
Because obviously you don't want that distraction.
Yeah.
Like the painting phase.
Like the painting phase. Other podcasts are available.
Never heard of them.
But also to add to that, we also are on Spotify.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
If you don't have to watch.
And yeah, so I'll generally listen to stuff, but I find I'm pretty laser focused. I mean, I like something on the background because painting in abject silence is a bit weird.
Yeah.
But I like it late at night now because it's quiet. There's no other distractions going on.
Yeah.
The house is quiet, so it's easy to focus in on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I've done some stuff where I've tried to paint at work during a lunchtime, but there's too much stuff going
it's
on.
really hard.
And there's too many people that want to talk to you and
I'll go, what's that?
yeah, and then you end up,
What's he doing? He's painting toy soldiers.
Yeah.
Do you then not get a lot of sleep if you have to?
Yeah, the problem I get is I get up generally around sort of 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Wow.
But painting till 2 a.m. means it's quite a small amount of sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what I generally do is, I don't paint on Friday night, and I'll usually lay in on a Saturday and all this sort of stuff to try and get my sleep back. But as it gets closer to a competition, you're running out of time, so you paint more and more and more, and then it really starts to get to you. Like, you're doing late night after late night after late night, getting up, and then sometimes it's a case of take a couple of days holiday to try and blitz through and get stuff done. So it's a real endurance test to see if you've got the time to be able to put into it. But I find it massively relaxing though.
Yeah.
When I do the painting, I'm like so zen and chilled out.
Yeah.
That when I then go to bed, I'm just like, and I'm asleep in seconds. Whereas if I went to bed at 11, I would probably lay in bed wide awake and be all stressed out. So it chills me out.
Counting up the hours you've got left and go.
Yeah. Need to do that.
Yeah, there's I think one of the most interesting things, it was when we had Richard on a while ago, and he introduced me to the idea that he was in like a select, elite painters like yourself in Golden Demon, that there's different Slayer swords and some are better than the other.
Yes.
We have two just off camera, which Ross, if you're happy to bring them in, that would be wonderful. Because it was something that fascinated me. You'd be like, you win a sword, cool. You'd be like, oh well, I don't like that sword. I want another sword.
Closest I'll ever get, gentlemen. There we go.
Yeah. So, and now we have someone in the room with the two Slayer swords. So I would be remiss not to ask which ones. You have one of each, right? Like a quote unquote bad one and a good one.
Well, so there's two things here.
Yeah.
Number one, there's the swords manufacturers changed over the years.
Right.
Yeah.
So back in the 90s, they used to use Raven Armories to make these swords, and they were proper forged swords that were like, £5,000 a piece. They were absolute works
Oh
of
my
art.
gosh.
And I think it was 2007 or 2008, they went, Games Workshop went, we're not going to spend money on these swords anymore. And they then went to have found some cheap ones in China And the one that's there is the cheap version that they got in China.
Right.
So they are, and if you compare that to the proper Slayer sword, it's worlds apart.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Absolute worlds apart. It's just this is just a very cheap piece of steel that they've put some leather
Is that the one they're still making? Is that the one they're still handing out now? Or?
No, so the new version is that one there. So the year I won was the first year that they then upgraded the Slayer sword.
Right.
So this is now made by a new company, but I don't know the name of it. And it is better quality than that one.
Yeah,
hefty piece of kit.
It's still not, as nice as the Raven Armory's swords. They are
£5,000 a sword. Even I would be like,
yeah. they are beauty. They are a thing to behold. But it is a step up from the old swords. The one thing I like about my sword I won was what they even did after this sword was they engraved the golden demon bit in here.
Oh, is that just printed on
My
there?
one is stickers. And
is it?
so I am the only sticker sword winner. So all the ones.
It's nice to be unique, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think what I love, and this might not be widely known unless you're in the room or you've been to one, but whenever they hand it to you, you had to stand there, and we had to be silent for you while you slowly put on your glove.
Yes, the chainmail glove.
This isn't going to cut unless you start to saw.
I thought the gloves a bit dramatic.
Yeah,
isn't it?
so that was based off the old Raven armories,
Which were really sharp.
Which were sharp, and then a well-known painter, which I can't remember which one it was, held it up, sliced his hand open.
Can't paint anymore.
And then there was a massive health and safety. Oh my God! And ever since that date, you wear a chainmail glove.
Okay, fair.
They have to be careful. They have to be so careful, don't they?
So yeah, he sliced his hand.
Do you mind? I mean, it's yours. Do you mind if I do the pose?
Go for it.
Dream come true.
Next year, Ross should be doing for
Next
real.
year. I'm gonna. Well, they do color 3D printers now, so I'm gonna get an AI.
Yeah, perfect.
No joke. I'm gonna get AI because you can get AI model creators. I'm gonna get an AI model creator to create the 3D model. Then I'm gonna digitally paint it. Then I'm gonna get it printed in color, and I'm gonna enter that and win. 2025 Slayer sword, yeah!
Oh, there we go. Do you remember that guy who had that YouTube channel? He was a 3D printer. Do you remember when he was assassinated?
You've got to push to the edge. Does it say in the rules I can't use a 3D printed coloured model?
I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, there we go.
There is one other thing with the Slayer swords, because there is a topic where when they brought the mini demons in, and they still gave out Slayer swords for them. They were deemed to be a lower caliber of, as in you want a mini demon,
like a young blood.
Yeah, versus a classic demon. So there is that element to it as well. Where
So even though the sword's probably the same
sword, but was deemed to be a lesser, lesser win than.
Where were the mini demons?
They were held all over the place. A lot of them were at Warhammer World. The Heresy one was held in a hotel, because it was part of the Heresy Weekender. Ran.
They do one of them for vehicles, if I remember right.
Yeah. Well, the very first Heresy mini demon they did was demon tanks.
Yeah.
So you could only paint tanks. So you had to paint either a tank or a tank squadron, or and then all these different versions of tanks. And so they always had a theme. Some of them were hotly contested, like the Golden Demon Space Marines. Was absolutely nuts. It was like a proper, full on Golden Demon. Lots of high end painters were there. It was super.
I feel like I'd love to go to that one. Limiting the amount of type of model you can enter. I would hope it's a competition.
It does. I mean, quite often with enough categories, it still meant there was a lot of stuff. I mean, the one that was obviously deemed one of the worst was when they did the Forge World. I think it was the Forge World Open Day one, when it was all basically specialist games ones, but they had categories. There was a Blood Bowl category, and they were and there was a Necromunda category, and they had a category for every single game system. Which meant there was so many categories that some of them were so sparse that it was a bit sort of
you're going to win if you turn up.
Yeah. So it was deemed to be a bit of a lesser one. So, but I think after that they sort of stopped doing the mini demons, and then we went back to this sort of system now where you got sort of two classic ones. So it was UK and US, but now it's Europe and US.
Yeah.
So
everyone's happy about that.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. Most people are, because one, they're bigger events. There's more things going on. Makes them a bit more prestigious. The Americans hadn't had a Golden Demon for such a long time that I think it's right that there's one in
Yeah.
different continents.
Yeah.
It makes
Yeah,
them.
it does.
It means that you haven't got to pay loads of money to compete, and I think most people enjoy them. I think they're quite well received.
Yeah.
And it's a shame there's not one in the UK.
And I think that's what, it's easier for me to drive to. That's why I'm upset.
Yeah, but I'm quite happy with it being Europe and US. For me, that it makes that one probably more. Even though the UK was always the biggest demon, like the big, most prestigious one, having it as a Europe one makes it feel more important. I think because then you're saying everyone from Europe comes and competes. Versus UK demon makes it feel a little bit, even though it wasn't. It was the most hotly contested one. It feels more important.
Got to rely on Games Workshop, the only company that decides to have an idea that goes completely utterly against Brexit.
Yes.
How many controversial topics can we fit in one podcast?
Can we get the Rogel Dawn Tang? What thoughts on female custodians? No, we're not.
Hang on.
No.
Don't give away Neil's next golden demon.
Yeah, fair point.
I was thinking
that female custodians with an AI backdrop. Oh, now you're laughing.
Well, I was going to use AI to create a female custodian that I would then use AI to sculpt.
Yeah. And then print it in colour.
Print it in colour. I mean, who can't win with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
What I'm sorry, I need to say, and I want to get this on camera. The best thing about this sword is because it's got the curved hilt. It's like the Sword of Omens. From anyone know? Am I the only Thundercats fan?
Well, I was thinking Thundercats.
Yeah. I want to.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. If I look through this while I paint, this should give me the powers of Neil.
Yeah, that's not
You're not going to be able to brace.
Have you considered quitting painting?
I didn't ever think
This was you don't do painting tutorials, do you, to people? There's a reason. I showed people won't know, but if we can get a photo up, so you'll see it in a future video. I did a sketchy paint job that took like 4 hours, and I said to Neil, "What do you think of that CNC?" He's like, "First thing, have you considered giving up painting?" Thanks, mate. I know you were joking, but it hurt.
You know, when you hold that up and then mention Thundercat, I thought to myself, do you know what? I didn't think it was possible to be on the show and be embarrassed to be a geek.
Thundercats.
Nothing wrong with Thundercats. It was the holding it up and hoping it transferred powers to his painting skills.
Yeah, of course it does.
It's a Slayer sword.
Yeah, this has got
It's imbued with powers.
Not only is
obviously.
it a Slayer sword, this is one of the proper Slayer swords, not one of the weak ass Slayer swords as well.
Yeah.
So they did away with the plaque as well.
Well, that actually was. They used to always give you out little plaques for when you won a demon, and then when I won the sword, they gave you one for the sword, and I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? So I just stuck it to the hilt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they would go. You go to Winners' Day, and then they would hand out your little plaques, and then they'd give you one for winning the sword, and you go, well, what do I stick that on?
Do they still have Winners' Day?
No.
No.
So there's no more plaques either.
No more plaques.
No more.
To be fair, these probably cost a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll bring Winners' Day back with the most recent price increase.
That's why they've done it, so they can afford to do that.
Yeah, that's why they've done it.
Yeah.
Just so Neil can feel happy about cheating his way through Golden Demon.
No, but good luck. So when's the next time we're going to see you at a demon, Neil? Have you decided?
You going to do Spiel?
As long as my wife doesn't see this, I'm planning on going to.
Oh, I mean, we've been recording for an hour and 40 minutes. She'd probably given up by now. Right?
Yeah, that's what
she might be watching my.
We did the controversial wife might find out questions we saved till quite late.
Yeah, because she'll watch the first 5 minutes and go, "Oh, that looks nice, dear." And she'll play it.
Oh, you're talking about your toys.
I'm planning on going to the Spiel. In Germany.
Hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be at that one, and then I'm planning on Adepticon next year with the venue change. I'm not sure yet. If I'll wait until they and
stop it.
I'll wait till they announce Golden Demon at the event, and then I'll look at flight prices and the whole problem of getting to Milwaukee versus getting to Chicago.
That's it.
And then weigh it up. But I'd like to go back. But it was. I'm a bit worried the magic's going to disappear. You know, the whole. I mean, you've been there.
Yeah.
Cabinets open 24 hours a day.
It's got a lovely community spirit.
Oh, of course, yeah. This is a convention centre, isn't it?
2 a.m. You're having a pint and you go, oh, let's go have a walk around the demon cabinets.
Yeah.
And then there's a few people there that you chat to, and it's really a great atmosphere. Versus convention centre shuts at 8, please all leave, and then you're stuck in Milwaukee going, well, what do we do now? You know, it's so I'm hoping the magic stays, but.
And it's, you're right, like I've not even thought, like getting there, like O'Hare's a very international airport.
Chicago's a big hub, yeah.
Yeah, like whereas Milwaukee, like I know it's only an hour.
I think you'd have to go to Chicago.
I get the impression that I spoke to someone the other day, and they said the best option really is to just still go to O'Hare and
then
bite the bullet on the journey on a taxi.
Through two
the
states.
problem I've got that I think as well, it's the whole getting back, because you could do the late Sunday night flight.
Yeah.
And from O'Hare and be in Chicago, get to that easy and fly back. Whereas
getting from Milwaukee to that
award ceremony, trying to get back from Milwaukee to O'Hare, it's super tight. So it's whether or not then you have to stay an extra night because of that, and then more expense. So
which is the basically the flight we always end up on, isn't it? Is the Monday night flight.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we have some questions from our patrons.
Okay.
Quite a lot of them were about AI and bits and bobs like that, which I feel like we've covered.
Should we acknowledge the people who asked? That's
Yes.
the nicest way to do it. Isn't it?
Yeah.
One of them was why you're a dick and why you're cheating with AI, but that was my question.
We've covered that.
Yeah. So Twiztit Tree asked a question about AI. Lesson asked a question about AI. And so maybe it was only the two.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there
That's
we
not
go.
too bad.
So thank you for those questions, gents. Hopefully we've answered them. Some of the wording is
Spicy?
or like sinister undertones. And like, this is the first time I met you, so I don't it feels mean.
Yeah, he has got two swords, mate. Be careful.
Yeah, that's why I've got the two of you holding this.
We don't want to let go now.
Yeah. So Tamsin and Mark ask, how sharp are those Slayer swords? Have you slain anything with them yet?
As you say, they're blunt as anything, aren't they? There's nothing.
You could bludgeon, but maybe not slice.
Yeah.
They're pointy. The pointy
you
ends
could
quite.
stabby.
You could stabby, but you certainly
not
couldn't slice.
slicey.
Yeah, no slicey.
They're quite long for stabby, aren't they?
Yeah, you have to have some good forearm strength.
Yeah.
We'll have a fight in the car park with them later.
Yeah. We're overdue one.
Yeah.
Hugh asks, how do you fix mistakes without caking on paint?
So I would say, if you're painting with very thin layers, you can generally go over it quite a few times before it will cake on. If it is getting cakey, then you haven't watered it down enough.
Yeah.
But and also the more you paint, the less mistakes you end up making.
Yeah.
Because you get more control and get more refined. So you do make the odd mistake, but it's usually a very quick fix. And a lot of time I find that if I have slipped, for whatever reason, I usually find I can get it off with a bit of water before it even
I'm getting
dries.
good with that now.
Whereas
They're
a case
very
of,
quick.
hold on, right, okay, that's gone. Right, let that dry.
Yeah.
Do that a bit again.
Yeah.
So, even to the stage where I almost felt as I found a cheat code with Lazarus's cape. So I'd blended up the red and I'd gone over it with so many glazes. It'd gone really glossy, like, where you keep glazing. And I thought, well, I want to put some freehand on here. But of course, then you're in the gamble of, if I put that on and I get it in the wrong place, I've got to try and reglaze all this red and it's not going to look right. Where I started painting on the symbol. I went, it doesn't look right. But where the paint was so glossy, I could reactivate the white freehand with water and rub it out. So it was like having a magic eraser. I was just going,
nice.
That bit disappear and that bit disappear. Then I'd paint another bit and go, no, that's not quite right. That bit disappear. So I could keep going over and over it, but with correcting my mistakes.
I did look at the back of that cloak and I'm not going to ask a question because I know the answer, but in my head I was just like, as if that's freehand. That's just insane. It's incredible. It's so clean.
We watched him, you nipped over last year to the Artist Opus booth and we just sat there in an hour. He just knocked out was it a shield?
Yes.
With a sword on it. I was like, all right.
But then it was the same Dark Angel symbol, which I'd been.
So you'd spent so long
doing.
Yeah.
It was just like, I'll do that bit, then that bit, then that bit. So it was all pretty done.
It had the waves of the rope in, even though you'd just done it on 2D.
I've got a follow-on about fixing mistakes, because we've talked about this before, if you're happy to talk about it. Is there something about Lazarus's backpack
Yeah, there is a story behind Lazarus the backpack, because I did a thing first where I had a tip from a heavy metal painter once, where he said, if you're painting a competition piece, buy 2 of the model, build one, have one, so when you're painting in sub-assembly, you can tell where all the bits sit, so you're doing all the light in the right places and
Very
the volumes
good.
are right. And I'm like, yeah, good tip. So I bought 2. And then I was painting the backpack, and then the top part of the non-metallic was going, it had a bit of a weird texture to it that I couldn't quite work out where it had come from. And I thought at the time, well, it could have been maybe from the undercoat. Maybe the undercoat's gone on a bit grainy. So I thought I'd try and strip it. So I just thought I'll try and just strip the top bit rather than strip the whole backpack that I painted. So I tried doing that. That doesn't work. That went horribly wrong. And I stripped it, and then I actually looked, and I could see there was a texture in the plastic. So then I went, okay, well, this is obviously a fault maybe with this backpack. Don't worry, I've got a spare, because I had another built one. So I then ripped off the spare one and started painting it. And again, fully painted this backpack. Very near the end of painting that backpack, I dropped it. And then the spikes that it's got on the top spike completely snapped off. And I went, don't worry, I'll try and fix it with green stuff. That didn't work.
It's extraordinarily tiny things.
Yeah. So I tried filling it and sculpting and re-sculpting the very point of and I couldn't get it to look right, because obviously it looked as though it had been green stuffed on. You know, it was a mess. So then I went and bought a 3rd Lazarus and painted the backpack again. Fortunately, that one came out all right. So 3rd attempt, it worked out. But yeah, it's amazing how. I was a bit unlucky with the backpack, but got there in the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just love the effort that like goes into it, like commitment to a piece. And it's like, you kind of look at it, and when you see the final piece, you're like, yeah, that's one model, but actually the amount of work and rework and correction, like, blooming heck. If I spend more than a day on a model, I'm bored of it. Don't say, I can tell.
Have you considered giving up?
I mean, it's like, man that uses AI says you should give up painting.
But these thumbnails are just writing themselves, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, hilarious.
Forget A/B testing. We're at Z.
Yes. Lovely. So Chris Davis asks, you're a successful painter, no doubt about it. Was there a miniature that you saw that inspired or motivated you to enter the competition space? If so, what about it made you think, I can do that and better?
So I would say the ones that really motivated me to enter the competition space were the old Golden Demons in the 90s. And I remember, and I can't remember his name, I think it was Neil Thompson. But this guy used to paint, I think, his own chapter called Shadow Falcons, I think it was. And they were all custom conversions from old Space Marine kits. And they all had like a falcony theme. And every year I used to look for his pieces and go, oh, no, there's another one. And they always what made me want to enter Golden Demon. So that's what sort of made me want to enter. Doing it better is just a thing of you pushing yourself to try and do it better. But they were the ones that inspired me to really go for it. You know, those custom conversions with custom paint jobs that made you think, wow, how did that person do that? And they were my favourites.
You're right. Like, for all the complaints of, you don't use this tool and don't thingy, without that, we wouldn't advance.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So, yeah. Show me something I've never seen before, but don't use an advanced tool to do it.
Yeah, I want advancements, but I don't want advance.
Yeah.
Star Wars fans, I want new Star Wars, but I don't want anything to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
I agree to a point, though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
but
yeah. It's like, again,
they're not wrong, but also good point.
Yeah. Somehow Star Wars returned. Okay, next one. What cheese is best to slice with a Slayer sword? Says Tim.
A crumbly one, I would say. Because halloumi. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
That's one of my favourite cheeses.
Oh, grilled halloumi and bacon on a sandwich.
So I think that's what I would choose to slice.
yeah.
There we go. Cool.
Have you ever sliced anything ever? Have you used the sword functionally as anything?
Just say no comment.
No.
As your lawyer.
I mean, the end of that one.
Before you won any Slayer swords?
Yes.
Oh, I was going to say that'd been good on
actually,
everything
no.
with the cake, wouldn't it?
No, technically no. I got married in 2010, so I did have a Slayer sword. I No, sorry, I didn't. I won my first demon, but no, I didn't have a Slayer sword. So
Otherwise, that'd been great.
Yeah, it would have been great.
Your wife would have loved that.
Yeah.
Cutting the cake.
Put that knife. Put time with that knife. Let me just get my other one.
I know of people that have cut things with them, like people that have cut melons and things. They've had friends come round, and then they've gone off to the kitchen and come back, and someone was trying to chop a watermelon with their Slayer sword and stuff. And
just a yes or no. We don't need to, well, we want to know who. Tell us after. Do you know anyone who's had one sharpened?
no,
Someone's got to do it.
Because you could sharpen
You
it.
should
couldn't you?
sharpen it. It's steel.
Yeah.
I would say so.
with
Wait
kids
for
in
the
the
zombie
house.
apocalypse.
Kids in the house is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you keep them?
Well, these they actually live next to my desk at work. I literally
Really?
just stacked next to my bed because quite often I'd speak to people at work or people would come round, so it's like a conversational piece.
Yeah.
But they used to just sit at home like propped up against a wall, and every so often they just fall over
Yeah.
and then cause all sorts of damage.
I can imagine people coming in. It's like, Neil, we need to talk about the budget, do we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any more? Did we go?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on. I'll shut up.
No, it's fine. I was going to say, if anybody comes up to you and you're like, "Oh, this could have been an email," you just find yourself reaching for the service. So the last one. So your Exodite was incredible. Why do you think GW don't currently make them? Are they just too good? So we'll take away the potential rumor that I heard in my time.
Do you know what? I feel as though GW are making everything from the good old days, and they want to make, and it's just a matter of time. I honestly think in the next 5 years we'll see Exodites.
Yeah,
there'll be a kill team or there'll be something.
Yeah.
But the whole time I was making that, I mean, the people in my painting group will tell you I was like a cat on a hot tin roof because I was spending so much time sculpting the whole piece, and I was going, if they release Exodites before I get to put this in a competition, I would be gutted. And then there were reveal
Imagine if
shows.
people released them and they were extraordinarily good.
I know that when they release them, they'll be 10 times better than what I've done, because I've had to make it out of bits they already make, and they all make something bespoke and amazing.
Yeah.
And there were, I think, 3 major reveal shows before Adepticon, and each time one of those came up, I sat there watching, going, please don't.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Squeaky
went through
bum
because
time.
they did quite a bit of Eldar in the time between, didn't
Yes,
they?
they did. They did the Striking Scorpions.
Yeah.
They did several Eldar things, and even to the stage where they did the silhouettes of stuff.
Yeah.
I say, guys, do we think this is an Exodite?
Yeah.
Oh, Kroot. The Kroot ones as well, where they did the Kroot stuff, like the arrows. Then people going, Exodites, it's definitely Exodites. I was going, please don't be Exodites. Please don't be Exodites.
So of all the risks you've taken, just before you'd even got involved with any computer, deciding your piece was...
Well, yes, this is the thing. Again, I weighed it up that before I started, because I had to wait for the Agrodon kit to be released. It wasn't obviously released straight after Adepticon, the last one. So I was waiting for that to be released before I started anything on it. I didn't buy any of the other kits. And then when it got released, I literally weighed it up. I went, right, are GW going to release Exodites between now and the next Golden Demon? And I went, oof, maybe. So I literally, then when I decided to do it, I went, right, well, I'm going all in. Let's hope they don't release.
Be able to phone the studio and go, look, I don't need to know any information.
Yeah.
Just, are they coming in the next 2 years? No? Okay, thank you.
The best thing for me would have been if they'd released them
just after.
done a preview at Adepticon of Exodites, because
Well, everyone
then
excited.
everyone would have gone, he did Lazarus and the line came out and now he's done Exodites and they've come out, and then there would have been loads of hobby rage.
Yeah.
You did get that, didn't you? You got people accusing you of cheating because you somehow psychically knew the Dark Angels were coming.
I somehow knew that the line was being released in 40k, even though I started painting Lazarus before COVID.
Yeah.
So like 3 or 4 years before they released the line, I somehow knew, and I knew the timing, and I got it on the weekend of release.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Bloody psychic Golden Demon winners. They're the worst ones.
Yeah.
It's these painting cabals,
Yeah.
We're like Illuminati.
Yeah. Honestly, it's terrible. Yeah. You just call up James' workshop and he's just... Yeah.
It's a secret handshake, and then he gives you all the information.
Yeah.
I'm so disgusted. I think we should finish.
Yes. I'll ask a question then, as I always do, because I'm sort of a member of the Patreon in a way. Just one strong piece of advice for somebody who's thinking about entering Golden Demon, other than yes, you should. What would you say?
And it's not me.
As long as it's not you.
Well, you've had your advice.
I would say just pick the one model you love the most and paint it, and then get the feedback. Start that feedback loop of what could I have done better? Maybe I should have chosen a different model. Start getting that feedback. So you just need to pick that one model you love, because if you really like it, it will show in the paint job. If you're trying to paint something that you don't really like, but you think it's the in thing or it's the latest model, I should paint that, then you're going down the wrong road, because you won't paint it very well.
Yeah.
And then it won't come out well. So you might as well pick that one model you love, paint that, enter it, get feedback, start again, and then just keep doing that, and then you'll get better.
Cool. Brilliant. Can't argue with that for a piece of advice. Before we finish, is there anything you'd like to finish on?
Yeah, my last thing is you can't spell champion with AI.
I might have, someone might need to go to A&E for that, Ben.
How many subs can we lose this year?
We've been putting the effort in since January. We'll see what we can manage to be.
Fucking hell.
I'm definitely on that note. Thank you for watching. Thank you to the patrons. And if you are a patron, you're going to get some more O'Neill. He talks us through some little bits more knowledge about painting and some tips and hobby for the hobby. Thank you very much, and thank you to everybody else for watching. I'm Jeff.
Oh, we never do this, do we? At the end,
I'm just trying something else.
I'm Jeff too.
I am also Jeff.
Nice.
And this is Jeff, but with Golden Demons and Swords. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.